So, my son Riley will be coming up here. He said I had to do the blessing for today. He had something special, so I'm not quite sure how he's going to embarrass me, but.
Testing.
Whoa. It works?
Definitely works, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say Happy Father's Day to my dad and all the fathers out there for
Thank
doing
you.
amazing work for us.
Thank you. Oh. And I love you too.
And I told you I wasn't going to embarrass you.
I'm embarrassed.
Stop it.
Okay. So let's say our blessing for our children. Child of light, we love you and bless you. We see the Spirit of God within you, guiding, protecting, and prospering you always. Don't worry about that. It's okay. And am I up now? Oh my goodness. Okay. It goes fast. Yeah. Okay. Let me just raise this a tad. Forgot to put on my little mic so I can walk, but that's okay because last time I gave the presentation here, I was like all over the place, and Riley's like, "Use your hands way too much, Dad." So, you probably saw that today's talk is Teach Your Children Well. And yes, that does come from the Crosby, Stills, and Nash song, as I'm sure most of you are aware of. But actually, I almost called today's talk, and you'll see why, Their Father's Hell, because of the first line in Teach Your Children Well. And then I thought to myself, oh my goodness, can I even say hell in church? And then I realized, oh, that's where hell started. Right? So, hey, if other churches can do it, so can we. So, I will be using that word more than usual. But most of us in Unity, right, we don't actually believe in a literal hell. Most of us don't. But I will tell you, because I know Reverend Cherie always starts with a little joke, I'm going to start it out with a little joke. So, you have these three religious leaders who suddenly have died and find themselves with fire and brimstone all around them. And there's a demon asking them, saying, "We will be letting you in soon." And then the three religious leaders, the first one being a rabbi, is saying to himself, "I should not have eaten that pork. Oh my goodness, that's what did it." And the Catholic priest is like, "Oh, I should not have went on that date with that parishioner." And then it gets to the Unity minister, and the Unity minister is just sitting there saying, "I'm not in hell, and it's not hot. I'm not in hell, and it's not hot." So maybe that one did believe finally in a in a literal hell, but we'll see. So today I am going to be talking about their father's hell. Now, why am I using their fathers? Of course, all of us have experienced pain in our lives. It can be across the board. But there's certain things, there's certain pain and suffering that men tend to have more often than women. One of the first ones that I'm going to talk about is war. Now, women definitely, mothers can suffer hell in war. If you're in a war zone, think about the Ukrainian women who had to flee, or maybe those who are still there, or even the Russian women. There are women who are losing their children, and that is hell. But men don't only have to possibly lose their children, lose their loved ones, lose their comrades, lose life and limb, although that can happen to women, of course. But men who serve have traditionally been the ones who've had to kill. And that's a different kind of hell, the one I'm glad I've never had to face. I always think of Brendan Toohey's poem when I think of that, of what he's had to experience. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. But when Graham Nash was writing his song, he was definitely talking about his dad. And I think we need to to recognize this, that in unity, yeah, we don't always talk about the bad things, but we always are singing about peace. And I really feel it's important. I said this last time I was here, that the new generation sometimes needs to know about what has happened previously. So hopefully they don't have to experience it themselves, right? And so this is why I'm going to be bringing up some of these topics to find positive that we can do in our world about these things that we still maybe haven't completely learned. So as I was saying, when Graham Nash was writing this song, this was kind of something he said about that the idea is that you write something so personal that every single person on the planet can relate to it. Once it's there on vinyl, it unfolds outward so that it applies to almost any situation. So this was a very personal song that he wrote about his dad. Now, when he was writing this song, there was also Vietnam, of course, going on, right? This was in 1969. And that was heavy on his mind. And in fact, I have a little clip of him talking about writing this song and what inspired him from Vietnam and all of that. So we're going to play that just for a moment here. Takes a moment to cue everything, so I know I've been back there plenty of times. And if you could dim the lights to like meditation, that would be great. Preset 3.
You who were on the road.
It was basically a song I wrote, you know, and finished here in my early days in America. But my original way I did it was kind of like Henry VIII. You know, hello, here we are on the road to you. Yes, 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 right? And still saw it, and he went, wait a second. First of all, that's a very interesting melody and really good words, but don't ever play it like that again. You have to play it like this. And it was Stephen that put that country kind of feel to it. And so now that we've got the rhythm and the heartbeat of the song itself, that demands how it was recorded. And it was recorded with just Stephen's acoustic guitar, my acoustic guitar, Dallas Taylor on tambourine, Stephen overdubbing the bass. We need a solo. But it's kind of country-ish, and Stephen, you know, and David were friends with Jerry Garcia, who were recording in the same studios, a complex of studios in San Francisco. And so we asked Jerry to put lead guitar on pedal steel, which I believe was the first time that he ever played pedal steel on guitar. I started teaching children in the last couple of weeks that I spent with my previous band, the Hollies. I'd been collecting photographs for a while and shown them in galleries. And I've never asked any gallery owner and tell them where to put images. That's their job. They know their gallery better than me. One particular case, they had put a picture of one of the earliest portraits I bought by Diane Arbus of a boy in Central Park with a hand grenade. And next to it was a Arnold Newman portrait of Krupp, who was the German arms maker whose family provided all the arms basically for both World War I and World War II. And when I saw these two images together, I really began to realize that if we don't teach our kids a better way of dealing with ourselves, we're in deep trouble here. And that's what was the impetus for me to finish Teach Your Children. Particularly with songs like Immigration Man and Chicago and, you know, Military Madness. It's a thrill as a writer that they've lasted so long, you know, in people's hearts, but it's a pain in the butt that we have to keep singing Military Madness or Immigration Man. I mean, haven't we learned yet? I mean, I'm a human being. We have certain responsibilities. We have to keep breathing, you know. We certainly can't stop fighting for what we believe in. All the things that the hippies stood for, and I still consider myself to be a hippie in a way, is that, you know, love is better than hatred and peace is better than war, and we have to take care of ourselves because this is all we've got, you know.
So just those who want to hear the song, I'm going to let it play once so you get the lyrics.
You who were on the road must have a cold that you can live by, and so become yourself, because the past is just a goodbye. Teach your children well, their father's hell did slowly go by, and feed them on your dreams. The one they pick is the one you'll know by. Don't you ever ask them why, if they told you you would cry. So just look at them and sigh. I know they love you, yes they do, yes they do. And can you hear of tender years? You can know the fears you see that your elders grew by, and so please help them with your youth, 'cause they seek the truth before they can die. Teach your parents well, 'cause their children's hell will slowly go by, and feed them on your dreams. The one they pick is the one you know by. Yes, come on. Don't you ever ask them why, if they told you you would cry. So just look at them and sigh. I know they love you, yes they do.
Yeah, we can clap for Graham Nash. Beautiful song. So yeah, that is definitely the inspiration for today, and I have to thank my dad, probably for introducing me to Crosby, Stills and Nash a long time ago. If we can get those lights up there, back to preset 2, perfect. Okay, wonderful, thank you. So as Graham was talking about in that little interview about, unfortunately, humankind, we still haven't always learned, right, as a whole, and we're getting more tools now that can cause greater destruction. I'm reminded definitely of George Santayana's quote. I'm always trying to make sure I get the right people because so many quotes are misattributed, so this is the proper attribution. He was a philosopher, and in around 1905, he was the one who actually wrote, "Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it." Yeah, right? So this is why I wanted to bring this up today, because this is our chance. I want to ask fathers and grandfathers who have been, first of all fathers and grandfathers here or who are seeing this online, who've served, including my dad, thank you for your service, because it's not easy. And even whatever we feel about those wars that happened, you were there to try to serve your country. And that is deeply appreciated. And I know it's not always easy to live or relive experiences, especially those that are painful, those that were literally hell. But I was talking earlier about Brennan Toohey's poem, and I am so amazed he is able to share that, because he has to relive so many times in his dreams, his nightmares, of seeing his comrades killed and feeling a guilt still about that. But by sharing that poem, people like me, people like Riley, the other generations, hopefully we don't have to go through that. Because we can forget. Without this generational knowledge, we will forget. And others will forget. And if we can have that being deep enough instead of the real thing, we'll be a much better race. So that's how I think that can be used for a very positive. Now, beyond war, there are other hells that men tend to experience more. One of them is incarceration. And in fact, Graham Nash, when he wrote this song, part of it was because his dad had been incarcerated. Not only did his dad serve in the military, but afterwards, when he came back, his dad was kind of distant to him, but he had actually bought a camera to give to Graham. You were noticing how Graham said he was into photography. That's because his dad got him interested in that. But it turned out this camera that his dad bought him was stolen. He didn't know it was stolen when he bought it. And when the police came around, he didn't want to snitch on his friend. And so he was put in prison for a year for being an accessory to theft, to a crime. Yeah. And so Graham Nash's dad, when he came back, Graham basically has said in his biography that he was never the same. His job fired him. He had been an engineer previously. And just because of this camera thing, their friends, they had a stigma around him, the whole community. He'd been in prison. For what? For buying a camera? But we know this still happens. And it happens more to men. I was looking up the statistics. Over 90% of those who are incarcerated in the United States are men. Okay? And I'm not saying that more women should be incarcerated. I think in general we should have less incarceration. But it definitely affects families. I mean, Graham writes about that, about how this affected his childhood. And he is sure that his dad died young because of that incarceration. He died in his 40s, his dad did. Yeah. So I want to, and I know all of us here probably know of a father who may be a family member or a friend, who has been incarcerated. We have too much of this in the United States. I think of my uncle who struggled going in and out of jail at times. And I think, again, what can we teach our children? We can teach our children things to, well, one, try to keep them out of jail, right? Riley will tell you I've tried to do that plenty of times with him. But two, what can we do? I mean, I don't have the answers, but I know there's something we can do better as a society than having to only lock people up, because it doesn't only affect them. It affects their families and so many other people. So there's a thought there on what we can teach our children and what fathers sometimes suffer more. And last, and this is one where if Graham seemed like he was especially emotional, later on in Graham's life, he's talked about this more recently, when he divorced one of his previous wives, his children who were with her, they basically disowned him. Now, I don't know the situation. I'm sure it's very complicated. I'm not going to try to side with anybody, but I'm sure that, I know from what Graham has said, because he's the one who talks to the media, of course, that he's deeply pained by this, and I'm sure his kids are not happy either. So, and this happens more to men, right? Usually children will stay more with the mom. I have somebody who I know very close to me where it was a little bit different situation, but she had to basically step away from having anything to do with her mom, but she still loved her dad quite a bit. But her dad, feeling an obligation to the mother, he also stopped having anything to do with the person I know who I care about very much. And so there's, again, another estrangement that happens. So it tends to happen more with fathers than it does with mothers. There's biological reasons for that, and I'm not saying it's not the men who are involved, but one of the things I think we all can keep in our hearts today is healing. Whether we have been a father who have had situations, I know I have with Riley and my other kids, where not always proud of everything, and I'm sure they've been angry at me about things. So I want healing for that as a dad, and looking for healing for those who are fathers or father figures where we have felt hurt. There's not always an easy answer to this, but I really remember a quote that was brought to me by when Reverend Mark was here. He shared this quote, and I think it's worth sharing again, about forgiveness. Not forgiving is like drinking rat poison and then waiting for the rat to die. So think of that. If you're struggling with forgiving a father figure, or other things, even if you still have a relationship, there's things you need to let go of. This may be a good day to be able to do that. So I do want to say this. I've talked about a lot of serious topics here, but I don't want to leave this on a downer, right? I'm sure this is a different Father's Day talk than probably any, most of the time it's all about the rah-rah, but we have to see the things that are also challenges, right? I think that's important. But fatherhood, for anybody who's been a father, who's known their children, there's also joy. We know there's always hard times, but there's so much joy. And I have been so blessed to be a father. I want to share a little bit about myself on this. Well, first of all, before I share about being a father of 3 wonderful human children, some people who don't have human children, we have fur children, right? And people say, well, those aren't real children, but our pets are our family, and they do a lot for us. And I've been blessed to have a lot of different, a few dogs and lots of cats. But one of our cats, his name was Ty. He passed away a few years ago. First name Ty, last name Gurr. Yes, he was an orange tabby. With him, and I'm bringing him up because I actually wasn't the father. My wife was the father, so she can actually celebrate Father's Day a little bit today. I was the mother. That was how he treated us. It was clear I was the mom. So I think it's the only way I'll ever be a mom in my life is because thanks to Ty Cat. But of my human kids, I'll first start with Riley, who I was so blessed. Oops, are you still back there, Riley? No, he couldn't. He gets a little impatient sometimes. But I have been blessed to have him. You all know him. He's grown up in Unity, and is here every time I'm here for the most part, and it's just a wonderful thing. I also have a wonderful daughter. Some of you know her previously as Jaden. She actually has decided to change her name to Octavia. So, which I'm fully open to people being able to find the name that fits them in their life. So, I don't know if I'll spoil your secret, Mom, but my mom actually has her name is one that she chose for herself as well. And since Riley isn't here, well, I won't tell you because he doesn't like his other name. He actually had a different birth name. And I meant to share this about my children. See, they're my children, and I always even forget it. None of them are biologically mine. Riley is adopted, and my daughter and oldest son are both technically my stepchildren, and my wife's biological children. But they're my children, right? And so my oldest son, and some of you are saying, oldest son? I thought you had an oldest daughter. And I did. And no, she didn't die. It's just she is now Jasper and he. And that's been an interesting transition. But he is the one that I'm probably have been the most distant with in our relationship because he came into my life about 7 years old, and so I already knew the time her biological father, while my daughter was 2, and so I was pretty much the only dad ever. But actually being a son now kind of brings us a little bit closer. It brings us something that we share. So that's a blessing too. So that's just a little bit about my family. I figured I'd share some of that, some of the great things that I have enjoyed. So once again, I just want to end with saying, hey, thank you all your fathers, and let's keep our fathers in our mind today. And remember that these painful experiences that fathers can experience, that all of us can experience, they also can be used for healing in this world. Okay? Okay. Thank you.
If you could please dim the lights. Thank you. Let's take some time now to open our hearts and minds in meditation and let the Christ light within us radiate outward like the rays of the sun. We know that going into the stillness is a cornerstone of our unity practices, and that concentrating on our breath enables the journey inward. Shut your eyes if that feels comfortable for you. Take a few moments to become aware of your breath. As you breathe in, feel the oxygen as it enters your nostrils and fills your lungs. As you breathe out, follow your breath as it moves down through your body. Imagine the oxygen continuing down into your legs, through your feet, and into the earth below you. As you breathe in again, the earth returns the oxygen to you, flowing through you like a gentle ocean tide. I found the following quote on the internet, which I would like to share with you. It is called, "Your Inner Sparkle." Spread your wings and fly. Glide over the seas, the cascading mountains, and remind yourself of the beauty that surrounds you in the silence of the world. Breathe in the scent of life, of love, of the freshness of the raindrops that sparkle on the leaves of the midday sun. Remember a time when you were free, when your inner child took you to these places every day. Twirling through the fields, heart racing with joy and laughter. Never, ever forget your inner child. It's that very child who frees your heart to the wonder of the world. Our inner child beckons to us every time we look in awe at the starry sky above. Every time we watch children laugh and play with wild abandon. Every time we see children discovering the miracle of nature. How does it feel when we see a huge pile of leaves? Our inner child wants to jump in them. How does it feel when we see a dandelion in a field, its leaves ready to drop? Our inner child wants to make a wish and blow on the leaves, letting them drift into the wind. How does it feel when we see a large puddle of mud in our yard? Our inner child wants to jump in it, watching the water splash around us. How does it feel when we see a stretch of beach before us? Our inner child wants to push their toes into the wet sand, letting the imprint of our foot wash away by the ocean tide. Let's affirm together quietly within ourselves. I honor my inner child's sense of wonder and curiosity about the world around me. I honor my inner child's imagination and creativity. I honor my inner child's feelings and emotions. I honor my inner child's innocence. I honor my inner child's desire to be loved and accepted just as I am. I honor my inner child's desire to laugh and experience joy. I honor my inner child's voice. I nurture my inner child by loving myself. I nurture my inner child by speaking to myself with kindness. I nurture my inner child by being compassionate with myself. I nurture my inner child by speaking my truth. Now, let's spend some time in the silence embracing our inner child. We are grateful for this kind and loving spiritual community, and for our many volunteers who give tirelessly of their time, energy, and talents in supporting Unity of Auburn. We are grateful for our beloved family and friends, for Unity principles and teachings that support us on our spiritual paths, and for this miraculous earth we live on. We keep in our hearts and pray for those of us who have requested prayer, including our fellow congregants who have placed their prayer requests and needs in our prayer chest. For this and so much more, we say, Amen.